Welcome to Home, Space and Reason, a podcast about creating a home that thrives.
Hi there, I'm Christina Browning, your host. If you know your home could be so much more than it is, I discuss home functionality, aesthetics, and automation. I'm a realtor in Portland, Oregon, and a home functionality coach. I geek out on every subject imaginable regarding your home and yard, challenging you to think of your space differently to get the most out of every square foot. I pose questions for you to think through about your space and your reason. This podcast is all positive, offering you virtual fist bumps and celebrating every win. Remember, there's no such thing as perfect, but you can still aim for your best every day. Join me on social media by searching for the handle Space and Reason. In this episode, let's discuss living room functionality and aesthetics. Hey there, how are you today? Yesterday, I was at a client's home talking about home functionality and discussing her upcoming new addition to the household. She expressed that the coffee table she has is simply there because it's what they've always had, and they don't love it. And it got me thinking about all the different choices we have these days and how she may be living in her home differently if a different coffee table were there. I have the gathering aspect rolling around in my mind, typically everyone gathering on the deck around the barbecue or in the kitchen. The deck is right off the kitchen in this home, and it's a natural gathering spot for cocktails or hors d'oeuvres. The kitchen is probably full of casual conversations over appetizers and cocktails. No matter where dinner is served, it's always nice to have guests move into the living room for dessert, if dessert is a thing you do. Sitting around the coffee table is the perfect setting for the end of the evening because the cozy ambiance stimulates conversations. Good friends, good food, and a relaxing atmosphere are the keys to the castle. So now the coffee table is worth considering because we know she's going to move this on to its next life. And so we have the potential to make a really good, impactful decision. This is a classic piece of furniture that could and should go the extra mile. My least favorite coffee tables have a top and 4 legs with nothing else. In my opinion, every coffee table these days should have something extra, at least drawers, or maybe they nest or have storage. Bonus if the top can pop up and become an alternate workstation or a place for a child to color, a spot to grab dinner in front of the nightly news, whatever your jam is. Let's think more deeply about options for coffee tables and how they can change how you function in a space. Let's start with nesting tables. A cluster of 2 to 3 tables that nest, which means one is smaller and the next one is a bit larger and it can sit on top of it. And the next one is a bit larger and it sits on top of those. They can be nice because you can create a longer space for food and drinks if you happen to be entertaining filling the entire length of your couch or room or seating area. They can also be pulled into different configurations depending on your needs. This can be especially helpful if you have a really long room and you could use one neat and tidy place for your table to live all the time. But when you're gathering, you could create 3 different areas, each with their own tables, whether it be a Thanksgiving, like a gathering where you've got 18 people in the house, or your neighborhood bunko party where a grouping of 3 might be just perfect. Let's think for a minute about coffee tables with drawers. I love a coffee table with drawers because inevitably you need a place for your TV remote controls, sometimes many of them if you do have a TV, or other things that go with that TV, and then other things along with that, like charging cords that you might need often but you don't want sitting out. I find drawers in coffee tables can also be lovely if you have little ones in your home for storing a pacifier, a burp rag, changing wipes, a changing pad, like a downstairs kit, if you will, or a living room kit that's out of sight. This is just for a season because soon your kiddo will be out of diapers. And then the drawer might have a stash of small toys for them so they aren't spread out all over your entire living room. This is especially helpful if you don't have another place for them to live that is out of sight. This can also grow with your child and or your family. Perhaps a teenager has ESPN magazines that he likes, or fantasy baseball magazines that he likes. They could live in there. Next, let's talk about tops that rise up. I love a convertible table. When the top can rise up and become a table for homework, eating in front of the TV, an alternate desk space, a special project space, bonus. It gives you more mileage out of the same space. I have one from West Elm that I absolutely love. We don't pop it up all the time, but it sure is handy when we need it and we have an additional area that is a choice. Next, let's talk about tables that are containers. If you love throw blankets, especially if you have several people in your family and you'd all like throw blankets, a storage drum coffee table from West Elm might be perfect for you. It comes in 4 different wood finishes from dark to light, and it spins open on top, and that's how you reveal the opening where your blankets might live. Now let's talk about doubling up. I know of a round coffee table that also nests and has storage, and the top pops up for a workspace or a homework spot. I love when something checks multiple boxes. The modern round nesting coffee table by Hernest has drawers and storage. As always, I will put a link in the show notes. The Stella Coffee table allows you to choose your opening direction for the pop-up and has 2 colors of wood to choose from. The only downside to this one is there's no covered storage, but if you need a tabletop facing in 2 different directions from one coffee table, if you can imagine in your head like you have an L-shaped sofa and you have a person sitting on both legs of that L, and on both sides you need a pop-up scenario for anything. This could be game night, this could be siblings doing homework, it could be any scenario where you need 2 different pop-ups facing 2 different directions. This one is for you. This next one by Hernest might just be the Rolls Royce of multi-use coffee tables, and let me tell you why. It lifts up to become a table or workspace. The top hinges out on both sides to become twice as big as it is when it's folded up. It has stools underneath that you can pull out to give you seating all the way around. Hello, game night. And it has storage inside. Seriously, all the things in one coffee table, no matter how you need your space to function. When considering a coffee table with an open lower shelf, think twice. I find they end up collecting dust and they're difficult to actually use because you have to reach under the tabletop to access it. Of the homes I've consulted at with these types of coffee tables, they simply have collected junk and accumulate dust, making the whole living room look messy. So I would advise against it. Gone are the days that I would ever recommend having a singular use coffee table. It's an opportunity to make every square inch more useful. Now let's talk for a second about styling. Styling a coffee table is fairly simple. A small plant might live there if it's a good proportion and it's got ample lighting. A candle sometimes lives there, and maybe a coffee table book. As with all things in design, it's always good to stick to odd numbers, so having one thing or three things may resonate best. Your job is not to fill it, but to leave lots of empty space to sit down your coffee or tea so it's every bit as useful as you envisioned that it would be. I found an article on BuzzFeed that I'll link to titled 50 Coffee Table Books That Are So Beautiful It Hurts, from the Ultimate Sneaker Book and Of Cats and Men, all about history's most notable cat-loving men, to Booze and Vinyl, a spirited guide to great music and mixed drinks. There's something on this list for everyone. Although you have my permission to simply go without. I find a space feels most peaceful when there's less sitting out. But let's say you've invited company over and you're gathered around the sofa, styling your after-dinner treats on a slightly raised cake plate with a few things you can enjoy with your fingers, and maybe a napkin or a small plate can be so decadent. From brie and pear to some simple berries or bite-sized chocolates, this is an opportunity for show and making your guests feel special. You also need space to put these things, so take that into consideration up front when designing your space on top of your coffee table. And now grab a piece of scrap paper and a pen. It's time for some questions to ask yourself about your living room space and your reason. Question number 1. What do we use our current coffee table for, assuming you have one? And are there things we wish we could do in here that we cannot because of our current coffee table, or like the space won't accommodate it? Question number 2, what do I have sitting out that makes my space look cluttered? Could this fit into a coffee table with drawers, or a coffee table with storage, or in a drum style coffee table? Could any of those styles handle the items that are making my space look cluttered? Sometimes it's nice literally to stand in the space when listening to these episodes and stare at it, because it's like we're both in this room together, thinking about it, mulling it over. Last question, number 3. Is my current coffee table the right proportion for this room and or for the couch or sofa it's paired with. When looking at your sofa, I want you to think of it divided into thirds. And your coffee table should be 2/3 of the couch's length. If you're enjoying this content and you'd like more, sign up for my email newsletter, Little Bits of Home Functionality. Because when I'm out in the world and I see these little bits, I always want to video them and share them with you. And I don't have that capacity in a timely manner through this, my podcast. And so I created an email newsletter with small, short videos where I can showcase these things, that I can feature homes that I've loved, paint combinations, you name it, inspiration lives here. It comes out just once a week and is intentionally short. I created a newsletter I would want to get. You'll see one video with a tip or a trick or a story. And as always, I post questions for you to think through about your space and your reasons. Find the link to subscribe in the show notes, and also follow along with me on social media by searching for the handle Space and Reason. I have gift certificates available for home functionality coaching sessions, so you can ask your partner for a session with me if you just don't feel like you'd ever do it for yourself. Sometimes we're not quick to spend money on ourselves, but you can ask for help, and I would love to work with you. Head over to my website, spaceandreason.com, and click on the Imagine link. How many projects do you have laying around unfinished? As a realtor, I see firsthand that garages can get lost in unfinished projects. Guest rooms become junk rooms where unfinished projects get closed behind doors. I've read statistics that more than half of U.S. homeowners have at least one uncompleted home project. I can help you. Unfinished projects can add stress to your daily life, especially when you see the unfinished pieces laying around every single day, rendering entire spaces and rooms unusable. How do we finish what we've already started, and how can we prevent this cycle from happening again? Come geek out with me on episode 33 called Finishing and Revising Home Projects. Also, this is a good one to listen to if you're stuck down the road on getting your mind right to finish a project. You can always listen again. If you happen to know someone in the market to buy or sell in the greater metro Portland, Oregon area, kindly send them my way. The finest compliment I could ever receive is the confidence of your referral. Thanks for hanging out with me today, friends. I'll meet you back here for the next episode.